He's a brilliant, eccentric detective with unorthodox methods, often misunderstood by the world around him. Sound familiar? Long before Benedict Cumberbatch stepped into the iconic role of Sherlock Holmes in the BBC's modern-day adaptation, another series had already cracked the code on reinventing the legendary sleuth, and it did so with style, heart, and ingenuity that often goes unrecognized today. That show was Monk, premiering in 2002 and running for 8 critically acclaimed seasons. Monk introduced viewers to Adrian Monk, a former San Francisco detective grappling with severe obsessive-compulsive disorder and an unrelenting fear of germs after the unsolved murder of his wife, Trudy. At first glance, Monk's compulsions are played for laughs, but as the show progresses, it becomes clear that they are integral to his unparalleled ability to observe, deduce, and solve cases that leave others baffled. Where BBC's Sherlock thrived on high-octane pacing, razor-sharp deductions, and stylized sequences, Monk took a more grounded, yet no less effective, approach. The show leaned into character development and emotional weight. Unlike Sherlock Holmes, who is often cold, emotionally distant, and dismissive of those around him, Adrian Monk is a man haunted by grief, yearning for connection, and desperate to reclaim his former life. That vulnerability made him more human, more accessible, and, arguably, more compelling than his British counterpart. Each episode followed a case of the week format, but what set Monk apart was how deeply it invested in the detective's personal journey. Viewers weren't just tuning in to watch mysteries get solved. They were watching a man slowly rebuild his life, one deduction at a time. Monk's trauma wasn't just backstory. It was the engine that drove every episode. His need for order and control in a chaotic world became both his curse and his superpower. Sherlock, for all its cinematic flair and global fandom, often fell into the trap of style over substance. The series dazzled with clever edits and digital overlays, but sometimes sacrificed emotional depth for shock value. Monk, on the other hand, built a universe where the detective's mind wasn't just a marvel, it was a battleground. Tony Shalhoub's Emmy-winning portrayal brought an authenticity to the role that was deeply moving. He didn't just play a genius. He embodied a broken man learning to function in a world that often dismissed him. Another strength of Monk was its supporting cast. Characters like Captain Stottlemyre and Nathalie Teeger weren't just there to prop up the lead. They evolved with him. Their patience, frustration, loyalty, and eventual love for Monk gave the show its emotional core. In contrast, Sherlock's John Watson often felt more like a sounding board than a fully realized character, overshadowed by Holmes' bombastic presence. And then there's the tone. Monk masterfully blended comedy and drama, crafting a space where laughter and sorrow coexisted. It never shied away from Monk's suffering, but it also didn't let that suffering define the entirety of his existence. The show's optimism, often expressed through small victories, made every solved case feel like a step toward healing. Even in its structure, Monk was ahead of its time. While Sherlock aired sporadically with feature-length episodes, Monk delivered consistent, tight storytelling that allowed for long-form character arcs and meaningful development. It didn't rely on cliffhangers or shock deaths to keep audiences engaged. It relied on heart. The irony is that while Sherlock was widely praised for reinventing Holmes, Monk had already done something arguably more difficult, creating a wholly original character inspired by Holmes, but one who surpassed the mold. Adrian Monk didn't just deduce. He empathized. He struggled. He endured. So while Sherlock will forever have its place in pop culture history, there's a strong case to be made that Monk Out-Holmes'd it years before the BBC reboot ever aired. It did so quietly, without fanfare, and with a humility that echoed through every one of Adrian Monk's beautifully flawed steps. In the end, genius isn't just about intellect. It's about humanity. And in that department, Monk didn't just solve the mystery. He redefined what it meant to be a detective.